Hey, how you doing? It's Mike DeMora again, coming live from the NCEP Fitness office here in Redondo Beach. And I know you're going to get this as a video, but anyway, we're live over here now. Anyway, what I want to talk to you about a little bit today is about program design. You know, program design is what really put the NCEP Fitness on the map. And when we talk about program design, unfortunately, so many of the trainers just don't get it right. And it's not because they don't want to, it's just they really don't have the tools to do so. So what I wanted to do is take the next 5 to 10 minutes and really explain to you what we feel is the best way to design a program. So we come from a functional standpoint. Our whole thing is about a holistic approach to functional training. So let's just really focus on function. And when we focus on function, we're going to see we break down everything into 7 primary movements. So your body can only do these 7 movements. So it's a push, a pull, a bend, a twist, a squat, a lunge, and what we call gait. And gait is ambulation, or in other words, getting from point A to point B. And there's only 3 ways to do that. And that's walking, jogging, or running. Now, with those 7 movements, that is what we call function. When we work with somebody, all we care about is that their function gets better. Too many trainers focus on what? They focus on muscles. So they say, oh, what muscles do, or what exercises do the biceps? What exercise do the triceps? What exercise? That doesn't make any sense to us because it's not functional. Look, if I focus on just the bicep, basically when I tell you how to do this, I'm going to say keep the upper arm next to your body, and then just bend the lower arm and bring it up, bring it down, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Now, how is that functional? When do you walk around like this? When do you, oh, look at me, oh, hi, hi. No. You move your arm as a whole unit. You either what? You either push or you pull. That's what function is all about. It has nothing to do with focusing on one muscle. Never in real life does your body only use one muscle or one set of muscles to function. So we look at 7 movements. Now we break those 7 movements down into 3 phases, 3 levels, 3 however you want to break it up, but we look at 3 different things. Why did we pick 3? Well, it just so happens that your muscles only do 3 things. They only do one thing, but they break it up into 3 categories. Your muscles do one thing and one thing only, which is contract. And what that means is they have the neural signal and the muscle fibers contract. And with contraction, there are only 3 types of contraction. Now, the reason we have 3 types of contraction, all 3 are very, very important for different reasons. So we have to work each one of them. That just makes sense, right? If the body can do it, we need to train it. So let's look at phase 1. Right? Phase 1 would be the isometric contraction. So in our theory, you should be able to hold something before you move it. Does that make sense? If you can't hold it, it's really challenging to move it. So when we hold it, what do you think we hold? Well, if we have 7 primary movement patterns, then we have what? 7 types of holds. So we hold a push. We hold a pull, we hold a twist, we hold a bend, we hold a squat, we hold a lunge, and we hold all forms during gait. Does that make sense? Okay, after we can determine that we can hold something, now we want to start to move slowly. Some people call this movement rehearsal. We want to move slowly. And when we move slowly, we want to focus on the eccentric contraction. Eccentric contraction is your control, right? It's control. Your body will never produce more force than it feels it can control safely. So to actually become stronger or to become faster, to become anything more functional, you have to develop your eccentric contraction. Okay, that would be our phase 2 or our level 2 or however you want to look at it, right? So we focus on the eccentric contraction in our 7 movements. What's next? Our next is to move at the speed of life or to move quickly. What contraction do you think we would focus on during that? You're right. We would focus on the concentric contraction. In other words, the production of force, right? When we look at the production of force, we want to be able to produce force quickly. That's also known as power. Now, power, once again, is the speed of life. Now, different people have different speeds of life. So when I train grandma or I train a professional athlete, what's going to change is not the actual exercise program, but what? But the speed at which we complete each movement, okay, when we're in that phase. All right, so now we've gotten 7 movements. Now remember, those 7 movements have unlimited number of variability, but we're just going to look at 7 major movements. And in those 7 major movements, what do we want to focus on? 1, to stabilize, or in other words, to hold, in other words, isometric contractions. Then we want to focus on what? Moving slowly, focusing on the eccentric contraction. And last but not least, we want to focus on moving quickly, or moving at the speed of life, which is also called power. Those are our 3 phases, or our whole function, okay? Now, after we realize that we're working on all 7 movement skills, we now then have to adapt the different planes of motion. How many planes of motion are there? There are 3 planes of motion. Forward, back, which is called the sagittal plane, side to side, which is called the frontal plane, and anything rotational, which is called the transverse plane. Now, all programs, if you think about it and you look at function, how do most of us move? In what plane do you think we dominate? Well, we dominate in the sagittal plane. In fact, most people will move at least 95% or more in just the sagittal plane. Does that mean we should ignore the other 2 planes? No. In fact, because we move in the sagittal plane so much, what we really need to do is work on our stability and moving slowly in other planes, so that we then become more efficient at working in the plane that we're in. I know that sounds a little bizarre if you're not into all of your sciences, but just trust me on this. So when we look at someone's program, when I judge someone's program, and I don't mean I'm judging, but when I look at someone's program and determine if this makes sense, those are my checklists. I look first to see, are the 7 movements taken care of, right? If not, I wonder why. Why are there 8 pushes and 2 pulls and nothing else? Or why is there this and that? We want to make all 7 movements accountable. Now, remember, you could say Mondays we're going to work on pushes, Tuesdays we're going to work on pulls, Wednesday we're going to work, however you determine to break it up. But that's a really, really, really important factor. The next thing we're going to look at, what phase are you in? So when I ask somebody, I look at your program and I say, what phase are they? Have you just started with them? Have you been working with them for a while? What phase are you in? Or what are you trying to accomplish with this? If they don't tell me I want to work on stabilization, then I'm wondering why they're not. Or I'm wondering why they've skipped it. So in our world, we work on stabilization first. They have to be stable before they move slowly. Now remember, they can do all of that all in one workout. Can you have them hold a push and then what? Move slowly during a push? And then what? Do some explosion during the push or some power? Yes, you can. You can do that all in one workout. Remember, all movements are assessments, and all assessments are movements. So what do you think we should assess them? We should assess them while doing these 7 movements. Okay? The next thing I look at are planes of motion. When I see a program that's all in the sagittal plane, I once again question. Why are you doing that? Why do you think you should only work in the sagittal plane? Remember, people move 95% or more of their lives in the sagittal plane, which means the frontal plane and the transverse plane are not being worked on, which is horrible when you look at function. Because remember the old saying, if you don't move it, you'll lose it. And so we want to make sure they work on all of it and become more efficient. The goal of us as personal trainers, in our opinion, is movement efficiency. Now, I know some of you are going to say, no, it's not. It's weight loss. It's this, it's that. Those are all derivatives. But to me, the most important thing is to keep someone moving and moving well. Because if you don't, who else will? I hope that helped just a little bit when we looked at program design and we looked at how we do each movement skill. Because what we're going to do is we're going to take each one of those 7 movements and do assessments on them. And based on how well they move or how well they don't, or how poorly they do move, then we are going to base our programs whether they need a little more of this, a little bit less of that, a little bit more of this, but never in our program do we focus on muscles. We focus on movements. So what are they again? Push, pull, bend, twist, squat, lunge, and gait. And gait is walk, jog, run, right? Now we have the 3 phases or 3 compartments or 3 levels or 3, whatever you want to look at. However you want to call it. Phase 1, level 1 is what? Stabilization. Hold it before you move it. Phase 2 is what? Move it slowly. Focus on the eccentric contraction. And last but not least, move fast. Move at the speed of light. Okay, well, I hope that helped, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.